everyone, this is Natalie Grace. She's a meditation teacher, a spiritual teacher, and sound healer. She's not always been this. She was a corporate chick doing the 9 to 5 routine and quit all of that and followed her calling. And today we are talking about meditation hacks and myths. And we're not only going to just talk about the beginner's stuff, we're going to talk about medium to advanced meditation techniques. But Natalie, I want to open up this chat with a quote by Dr. Sheila V. She's the founder of Mindfulness in May. And she said, we do not meditate and engage in mindfulness meditation to become better at meditation. We engage in it to become better at life. Now, I would love your thoughts on this. Why does meditation allow us to become better at life?
Yeah, look, I think that's a great quote. I had not heard it before you threw it at me, but it's a wonderful illustration of the purpose of meditation. It kind of takes the heat off the practice, which is often where people stumble. Yep. It's really, you meditate with an intention and you'll watch things change in your life quite effortlessly, or life becomes effortless in a way as well, because you can just slow things down. You can detach your thoughts. Meditation isn't always about the act of meditating. It's also about what it does. Like, we eat good foods, we have a healthy diet. Yes, we enjoy eating those foods, but we also do that because then our body feels alive, energized, we feel healthy, we don't catch diseases. And it really is the same principle with meditation. So I think that's an awesome quote. I'm going to use it. I'm going to steal it from you.
Go for it. Steal away. It's mindfulness in May, right? Coming into May. And so learning about these practices is so important. And I love what you're saying, Natalie. I think the magic in our life happens when you get off the meditation pillow. And I think so many people wait for something to happen on the pillow, in the meditation practice. And a lot of the magic happens as your life starts changing direction. Meditation really is the key to your intuition, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And seriously, meditation in itself is a beautiful practice. I will say it, of course, because I'm addicted to meditation now, Meditators Anonymous here. But the act of meditation does feel wonderful. It really does. But you have your challenging days too. Just like when you have a workout, you feel wonderful. Sometimes when you're going for a run, you feel great. And other days you feel like crap. So
let's talk about the things that trip us up. I love that.
What actually will trip us up is the act of meditating and putting so much pressure on the actual act of meditating and getting it right and sitting in the right position and singing the right mantra. And of course, there's some amazing techniques. I'm someone who teaches techniques, so I'm not going to rubbish meditation techniques, but we shouldn't take, but it's not necessary to take them so seriously. It's great to dabble, to try, to find a practice that works for you. But as what you quoted says, is take the heat off the actual practice a little bit and enjoy the moment. I mean, meditation, mindfulness, being in the moment, being in the present moment, sitting with your thoughts. So really, if you think of it, the objective of doing that is to be in the moment and to be at peace with where you are in space and time at that given point. Then really it shouldn't be goal orientated.
No.
We don't need to have we don't need to have any expectations from a meditation session. And I think people do tend to put a bit of pressure on themselves. That's with any kind of healthy habit that people are trying to form. They have very high expectations. You hear about the diet bandwagon too. People trying to have a perfect diet all the time. And then, of course, they fall off the bandwagon and then they sort of give up. And it's not about that at all. It's about, why are you doing it? What is the process? What does it mean to you to sit and meditate? What does it mean to you to have a healthy diet, to exercise? Why are you doing it? Not to become like the best meditator on the planet and to be able to say, hey, my Kundalini has gone, up to here. Or I heard, some angel's voices telling me this and that and the other, which, it can happen or whatever. But it really is just being in the moment and accepting it for what it is. And you'll see it then has a penetration effect. It goes out and it sort of dissipates throughout your daily life. It's what you bring away, as you said earlier, intimated earlier, it's what you bring away from your meditation stool or wherever you're sitting in meditation, rather than just accepting what's there at the time. But we have very high expectations of ourselves. I mean, don't forget, previously, now meditation has sort of gone a bit more into the mainstream. It particularly happened around the 1950s with the invasion of Tibet. And so what was a very closed religion and a closed practice of what they did started infiltrating the Western world, as you had your refugees from Tibet sort of moving outside and bringing their practices outside. And that's what really sort of triggered a bit of a mindfulness movement in the Western world. Oh, geez, I'm losing my track of thought here.
You're right. No, I'll bring you back to focus, and that's okay. And this is, I love that you've done this, Natalie, because this is meditation. And when I teach meditation to the students I work with, I say life is messy. And if a phone goes off during the practice, a phone goes off during the practice. If your dog comes in or your partner comes in during your practice, life is messy. Why wouldn't you expect your meditation to have a little bit of disruption and
Absolutely.
and that is your test. You test it on the mat, you test it off the mat. And the meditation is reflecting your internal and external state. And I know that you're an advocate for this, Natalie.
Absolutely. And where I was going with the practice of meditation and with some of these practices that we are engaging with now, previously people, and this is again back to the trendy sort of what we've taken from the breaking down and the dispersal of Buddhism and that kind of philosophy around the Western world, is that people have been training for decades in certain practices. There was a timeline, there was a very long timeline, whether they get here or there or wherever in that period of time, they had that spaciousness. There was no rush to reach something within a certain time frame. And we're not allowing ourselves here that spaciousness. We're expecting to reach a very profound level sometimes weeks after starting a practice, where it really is the process of meditation. It's that journey. Because we don't want to get to an end point. Like if you get to an end point, we have to desire something after that. So there's really, technically, there isn't really an end point. So
there's that way of being, isn't it? It's the way of being we're looking at.
Yeah. So we're not trying to attain anything. We're not trying to reach anything. But that goes against what we're programmed to do in this society. We're usually goal orientated. I get there. Let me see my progress so that I can understand that this practice is worthwhile. And I think people find that a bit of a stumbling block when they start a practice.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about starting. Let's talk about setting up space. So I've been told by my teachers, and I love this, supercharging a space. So when you start meditating, creating a sacred space, you're really creating a portal, and you're creating a vibration in an environment that you come back to. And the more you meditate in one spot, the more, the easier the meditation will be, because that environment already has the vibration of a practice that you're doing consistently. And not changing the spot too frequently, allowing it to be set up so you can come back into it. Does that resonate with you, Natalie? What do you teach around space setting up space?
Absolutely. So the concepts you're mentioning are quite advanced concepts, but they're absolutely relevant as far as energetically setting up your space goes. And if you meditate in a certain space every day, of course, the vibration of that spot is going to be quite high, and just entering that spot, you will feel that. As far as when you're just very starting your practice goes, that also plays on human nature and the actual psychology of setting up a habit. So you need at least 21 days to set up a habit. And if you have a regular spot, you're training yourself, you're training your mind, you're training your body to get into that practice. So that if you walk up to your meditation space, and this is the place where you always meditate, and you really don't feel like meditating at that time, you walk to your space, you sit down, and for two reasons you can get into your practice again. Whether it's a high quality practice or not, it doesn't matter, you're doing it. One reason is that you've trained your body, you've trained your mind, your monkey mind. Okay, I sit here and I meditate, and so your body falls into that habit. And two, on a more advanced level, you have set up that space energetically, absolutely, so that not only your mind and your psychology is going to work, but on your subtle energy body on that level will fall into that zone, because that space has absolutely been set up energetically.
Yeah, amazing. And you know what, Natalie, you teach advanced concepts, and I do too, even a beginner students, because I like to plant seeds for people to step in, because we can take quantum leaps with our development. That's what I've learned through my life, quantum leaps. And you know what I found with my space, it becomes magnetic. It pulls me. Have you found this, Nat? It pulls you to meditate.
Absolutely. Yeah. You sit there and you can't just, you can't not. You can't not, because it has been energetically. You have created, as you say, kind of a portal. You've created a connection because that's what you're doing. You're connecting beyond your 3D, your physical body when you're there in the air. But you're not trying to. That's what I want to make it to, is like, don't expect like glitter to rain from the sky when you're sitting in your meditation chair. You know, you're not trying to. It just is. That it is what it is. And that will happen by default. But it is what it is. So you do it. So it's, as you say, it's magnetic. It becomes effortless.
Beautiful.
You don't have to try.
Nice. Now let's switch gears. Let's talk about grounding. It's a term used frequently. I don't feel grounded. I feel ungrounded. You need to ground yourself. What does grounding mean from an energetics perspective? Why do we need to be grounded right now during COVID? Why is it so important to ground?
Oh, so need to ground. So basically, grounding relates to the base chakra. That's a point right at the bottom of your torso, and it sort of connects you on an energetic level to Mother Earth. Don't forget, and I always like to remind my students that we are so deeply connected to this planet on a magnetic level, and also we're made of the same substance that this planet is made of. We are, in a way, this planet in our 3D physical body as well. So it's a connection to Mother Earth, absolutely. But the purpose of grounding and the thought behind grounding is we're constantly in our heads. We are constantly with, you know, our mind chat. That's often why people, mostly why people want to meditate, because they can't stop their thoughts from chatting away. You know, they lie sleepless, have sleepless nights because their mind won't switch off. So what grounding does is it draws your attention psychologically, but also on all levels, energetically, to other energy centers in your body. So they say we've got our brain here, but we have a kind of a brain in our heart. We have kind of a brain in our gut. We don't often think with our gut, you know, gut instinct, listening to your heart. So it's bringing your thoughts out of this part where it's going down into your whole body and making you consciously aware of this amazing energetic tool that we are occupying right now, and connecting into those lower chakras, which are very much part of helping us find a sense of security, a sense of identity, and a sense of connection, not just to people around us, which is so important, which we do more with our upper chakras anyway, but as far as connecting to where we are in space right now, and that is on Mother Earth right now. So also a way with grounding, that's also why people talk about grounding, placing the hands on the soil, going out into nature. It's all a connection with our core essence on all levels. And from a basic point of view is getting out of here, because we're always up here.
Yeah, so when you say up here, we're talking about the crown chakra and the third eye when very open. Yes. You know, you're an empath. Yeah, naturally might have a disposition to very open third eye. I know that I could just, when I first opened my third eye, and it's a bit of an advanced concept, but it's the energy chakra in the middle of our forehead. Like, it gives us insight into the truth. But right now we're all opening into the truth of what is in our life, you know, of COVID, you know, where we are at. The crown, we're trying to reach to make sense of it. And in some ways, that is where that brings up anxiety, the shortness of breath, the panic. Yes. And Natalie, what you're describing is the base. And base is like, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a lot of psychological models. If you don't have your base sorted, you can't create. Yeah. And base is financial security. Am I safe in the world? Have I got my health? And all right now, there's a lot of instability globally and personally around our base. So connecting base to Mother Earth is so essential right now.
And the problem is we're going into the direction, what's going on? Where am I going? What does this mean to the world? And it's still keeping us up here. And so that's why, especially in this time, if we can really make an effort, we're going to be up here. We don't have to worry and make a pointed effort to be up here, because by nature we're up here, the modern man. But we do need to make an intention to go down here and occupy the lower part of our body in that way, and tap into those energy centers, because you do need a base before you get up here, before you can find what the truth is and connect and all that sort of stuff. If what's happening down here is not solid and secure, then what's going here is going to be whoosh. And I find quite frequently with students too, of all levels, they're desperate just to focus on the third eye and, the upper chakras, and I find they're often not very grounded, often very spiritual people. And a lot of, I find a lot of psychic mediums, you might have found that too, are not very grounded. So yeah, it just feels really beautiful when you do focus in. Actually, funny, I did a yoga practice yesterday on grounding, and it just felt so nice, and I felt really nurtured and really held. If you can feel like that, it gives you that extra comfort and security if you can really make it a regular practice to do grounding, but especially in these times.
Right. I love it. So what I love about you've described, a lot of psychics and mediums and very spiritual people, we do meditation and there's a feeling of wanting to leave. It's feeling of wanting to leave to go to higher dimensions or higher energy centers. Yeah, and there's a lot of calm that can come from that. The thing is, we're having a human experience. When I've been so grounded, it's been so delicious because I'm back in my body, and there's a feeling of safety when you actually can be very back in your physical body. I'm going to switch dials now, Nat, and you're a sound healer. You're also a very accomplished musician, and you were at Princeton, wasn't that right? That you got your you're highly educated in music.
I'm a collector of degrees.
You are a collector of degrees, and you've done this amazing thing where you merge all these healing modalities, understanding energy. You've alchemized it. A lot of light workers these days are alchemizing first part of their life for the second part of their life. Come to that later. But I want to just discuss, I'm aware, I'm going to ask, is this truthful where, the different chakras correspond to different notes and different sound frequencies? Does that resonate with you? How do we use this information?
Yeah, look, there's quite a wormhole there as far as also what these precise frequency of notes are, because the tuning system changed about 100 and something years ago. So as far as what the natural frequency of notes goes, there's a bit of ambiguity. But yes, there is, the people have found, there's been a finding that each chakra resonates with the note of the diatonic scale. I don't necessarily fully subscribe to this. I totally respect the theory, and it does, it's been proven to work in sound healing. But for me, and again, that goes back to what I practice with meditation too, it's the intention behind the note that you're producing, and the person who's being healed. So if you feel a note resonates with your base chakra, technically the note C, if people know about music, the note C is the note for the base chakra. But if you're hearing another note and it's resonating with your base chakra, then that's the note for your base chakra, if you know what I mean. But yeah, there is a note, because the way music developed is there are a lot of patterns and frequency in nature. So you'll find, and music being so mathematical, a lot of the frequencies and notes correspond with certain patterns that we actually find in nature. So, and that's also why the sound vibrations can be, that people can pick out notes and go, that note's for that sequence of notes is for that particular thing. There's quite a power in that. But for me personally, there's an intention, there's the power of intention behind this too,
Okay, beautiful. I love it. The fingerprint of our soul is so unique. So why wouldn't how we work with sound be fairly unique? And I found in my practice, when I find a piece of music resonates, I'll save it on my Spotify, and I'll think that's the piece. You can feel a different energy. I can feel myself lifting in a different way, or becoming steadier, or I'm in my body more. And we are dealing with subtleties here when we meditate. Let's talk about intentions, because you've said that a few times. What does an intention look like when we're meditating? How do you set an intention?
Yeah, look, for me, intention is what makes it meditation.
Nice.
You sit down, because in a way, you can sit in nature and stare at the trees and go into a very deep state, maybe doze off or something. But what makes it meditation is really the intention that you are sitting down. I think even the dictionary definition you'll find talks about this. You sit down with the intention to focus, to find clarity. So you're focused on something. If you're chanting a mantra, you focus on the mantra. You focus on your breath, or whatever practice you choose to take. But the fact is that you've sat down with the intention to meditate, which means the intention to gain, or at least become closer to a state of focus and clarity. So first of all, the intention when you meditate is the intention to meditate. And then maybe if you've got an intention that you want to just turn your mind off or understand what's going on with you energetically, you can have that I would say that would be a secondary intention. And now this is my personal view on this, which I advise people to, with that secondary intention, if you're meditating on something, really make that a secondary meditation. Maybe think about it when you go into your practice, but then park it and allow the process to unfold by itself, because it's a bit of a letting go and a bit of a trust sequence as well when you go into these states.
Absolutely. And just setting, so what I'm hearing from you now is setting the intention and surrendering that you'll have that experience.
Well, it goes back to what I said earlier, where you don't want to be too pushy with your intentions, because what are you doing then? You're setting goals, which is not necessarily what we want to be doing when we're meditating, because we want to be in the moment and be in the flow.
I love it.
But if we think we've got a goal, then we're trying to move towards something. And if you're trying to actively move towards something, how is that being in the flow and being in the letting go? You know?
Absolutely.
So by all means, have an intention maybe in the back of your mind and allow your subconscious to work on it, but don't make it like a goal.
I love it. I love it. Now let's talk about, and you mentioned this just then, about falling asleep. So a lot of people fall asleep when they meditate. So what do you make of falling asleep when you meditate? What's your advice for your students around that?
There is a difference between meditation and sleep. And I will say it, make that your mantra. There is a difference between meditation and sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep is not meditation. Meditation is not sleep. And that is why I advise at least all my beginner students to meditate sitting up.
Yep.
Not lying down. Because if you meditate and you get into the habit of falling asleep, and that's what you're going to do when you go to meditate. And sleep is not meditation. Did I mention that earlier? So really, one thing is meditating before sleep to make your sleep easier, or going on a guided sleep meditation with the intention of falling asleep. But if you are meditating with the intention of meditating, then you really need to do all you can to stay awake. So if you really feel so sleepy and you can't do your practice, and that means your body needs sleep. It means you need a nap. You don't need to meditate, you need to take a nap, you know? So definitely it's a bad habit. That's a meditation hygiene thing. Don't fall asleep. Don't get into the habit of falling asleep while you meditate, because then it's not meditation anymore. And
perfectly said.
Sleep's magical. Sleep's great. Wonderful things happen when you're sleeping. You can have amazing insights. You can wake up with clarity and all that. So sleep is amazing. It's fantastic. But there has to be a distinction.
Absolutely. You've been meditating for over 10 years, 10 to 15 years. I've been meditating for like 13 years. And, you know, the first 2 years that when I meditated, I fell asleep most times. I was in the middle of like my master's and big corporate job, and my body just needed sleep. And then I went to the Swami that I was working with, and it was like, you got to get yourself to a slightly uncomfortable position to keep yourself awake. Because, you know, meditation and mindfulness, it's a really active process. You're nothing passive about it. And the intention setting, and it's another discipline. And I think it's like any creative pursuit. Creativity and mindfulness and intuition have these like softer kind of tones to it. It's very feminine aspects, but we can bring a real strong intention and a powerfulness to the practice. And that's where the growth happens when you're meditating, and you know, there's a strong intention. Hey, I'm here, and this isn't relax. It's not even go beyond relaxation. It's like, because relax.
It is relaxation. It's a very deep form of relaxation. But as you said, there's an intention. Well, you know, careful with wording it, but there's the intention to meditate behind that. There's a focus. And I really like that you mentioned the word discipline. Okay, because you do need discipline. You need to, if you want to have a regular meditation practice, you have to be disciplined to set up your space, to sit down, and to really try for a minimum of 3 weeks. Try and do it every day. If you can't do it every day, if you miss a day, that's fine, but get back to it. Not go, oh, I missed it. Oh, I can't do it. No, you need discipline. You need to put some focus, intended effort into it. It's not just, you know, and some days are going to be hard, and some days are going to be easy and amazing, and some days are going to be awful. But that's with anything. So yeah, discipline is a good word.
Yep, absolute consistency and discipline. And we've got some comments. So hello to Leanne. Yeah, Leanne's a fellow medium and definitely a meditator. Hello to Sabertooth Tiger Vardy. If you guys have got any questions or comments about meditation, we'd love to hear them. And Nat, we're just going to turn it up a notch, and let's turn it up to really accessing intuition and working mediumistically, and how you know, a bit of channeling energy. We're going to be online for another 10 more minutes. So let's talk about supercharging meditation for a really deep spiritual intuitive practice.
Yeah, so that's where we bring the word energy into our vocabulary here, which you don't always think. I mean, people off the street won't go, meditation and energy? Isn't it about slowing down? No, it's about working with energy, generating energy, but working with your subtle energy body. So what you realize is the deeper you go into your practice, and I remember the moment this happened to me when I was actually doing an intentional meditation. It was quite early in my practice, in when I was doing formal training. It's when you tap into that connectedness and that spaciousness within yourself. I had the moment in my meditation where I could perceive with my third eye, obviously, that there was like a galaxy in my stomach. There was just this spaciousness inside of me. There was this connectedness. And it's almost like there's no difference between me and what's going on inside of me, and what's going on around me, what's going on above me and below me and all that sort of stuff. So you go on to that, and but you do need to get into a regular practice to do this and have a little bit of an understanding. But once you get into that, things, and this you don't necessarily say at the very, very beginning, but things start to happen, but they happen effortlessly. You know, as I continued with my formal training, I got a vocabulary around it and I could explain it in words. But had I not done formal training, I probably would have still had these experiences. So as you get to more advanced levels and you can sit and you can actually distance yourselves from the chattering mind, your mind never really stops, but you can start distancing yourselves from your thought. You can access a much deeper level inside of yourself. And that's when you tap into your energy body. And your energy body is connected to everything.
Absolutely.
We go out and out and out, and you understand that, like, one thing is concentrating on your physical body, but then you understand that your physical body goes out there. So you work into your aura. I mean, in layman's term, into your personal space. Everyone understands personal space. Someone gets too close to you, they're not touching you, but you can feel that they're in your space, and that's what we start working with.
So, you know, on that journey, it's really great to sit in a meditation group with a teacher that can allow you to feel into your auric field, to feel what it's like to really bring in the energy around you, to connect as spirit as a medium. And you don't have to be a medium to do this. So this is just not about being a medium, but mediumistically, what you do is you really condense the auric field around you, lifting the vibration, because fundamentally what we're doing is lifting our vibration, spirit's lowering theirs, so we connect. There's a connection between a spirit and between your auric field. And the higher the light quotient you hold, the higher you can connect to your spirit teams, to the higher realms. And that's what lifting your consciousness feels like. There's a lightness to it of going beyond. And that's where channeling energy, when people are in channel, you can get in channel on a long run. And, you know, Nellie, you talked about having these experiences before our awakening. I used to channel when I was doing my really long runs, because it was a running meditation. My mind, my consciousness had left here. Before I knew it, I was dialoguing with something beyond. And that's really what we're doing, was working with energy. It's not really about sitting on the mat. These advanced tools are really about energy.
Well, and you know, the reason you can dial in when you're on a run, and I would do that too, actually. I actually tuned into my oldest daughter was around me for quite some time, and she would drop in on my runs quite frequently.
Yeah. You're saying, you're talking about the spirit, the soul of your child. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. She was around me for quite some time, and she'd come to me on my runs, because you're in a pattern there and you're letting go. So it's almost, the reason of running is like a meditation, and you can get into, I mean, when I would go for runs too, problems would be solved and things, because you're moving away from you're distancing yourself from yourself. You're almost like people who swim and follow the black line. You're becoming almost hypnotized, and you can let go of all the ego, low vibrational stuff, and then it can come in, because it's not even just necessarily a matter of lifting your vibration, which will come by default if you're regularly meditating, doing energy work, but it's also just a matter of opening yourself up and just letting go of all your limitations, all the limitations that you actually have created for yourself. It's an opening.
Absolutely. It's an opening. And so just one last question for you, Natalie. It's around, and I just love your, for the viewers here that are watching, you have an incredible life. You are from the Faber-Castell family. And, you had a really big corporate career. And quite often with our life paths, we're born into a set of conditions and a set of circumstances that really can dictate the type of life we lead. And then there's something that goes beyond that, our soul contracts, our karma, our callings, our life purpose. And you might get tugged and pulled in another way. And, you really, what I've admired about you, Nat, is you've followed your life purpose. You've followed your calling, even though it made sense to no one but yourself at times. And you left this family business, you moved away from it, and you followed sort of the crumbs towards all these amazing esoteric practices. And you hold that in your life now as someone who meditates regularly. You teach it. You're a sound energy healer. You do so much sort of voluntary work. You've worked in palliative care with sound healing. The most extraordinary life. Just for people watching, how have you been courageous in your life to do that? That point where you said, I'm going to actually follow what I'm meant to do. What does that look like? How does that feel?
Yeah, well, you know what? When things really started working for me was when I started going a bit more in flow. So I've always had these. I've always called them my voices. It's obviously my guides, but they're my voices. That have told me very explicitly what to do, and if I don't follow, something happens that pushes me in that direction anyway. So for me, when I've done stuff, it hasn't been a huge, big. The best things I've done actually were the things where there wasn't a big decision. I wasn't deliberating. I just felt when I would fall into things and was in flow. So I think that's the courageous thing you've got to do, because we're always trying to prepare everything and do pros and cons and risk analysis and everything. Sometimes you've got to throw that to the wind and just step into what your little intuition is telling you and just take a risk. Because yeah, you might fall flat on your face, but you won't know until you actually do. And if you fall flat on your face, that's a learning experience. So I think for me, in a way, as far as being fearful or courageous goes, it wasn't a process of me actually facing my fears. It was a process of me bypassing my fears and just going in to the direction that my intuition was telling me to go into. And yes, I did a lot of really random things, and I would sometimes question it. But now I've come to a point, that crucial 42, 43-year-old age, which I guess I've passed, but we don't have to talk too extensively about that. Where it starts to actually make sense, all these random things that happened, they all start to come together. And so, yeah, it sometimes you just got to go. Luckily, my voices are very strong and incredibly insistent. And sometimes you just have to go with it. It doesn't make sense, but it does in the end. And the thing is, whatever you do in your life, it doesn't matter, because we do have our free will. And so by choosing to go in a certain direction, then it realigns our whole future. Then we choose to do another thing and it realigns our whole future. So we've always got a path, whatever we do. And I think that's what we've just got to sit back and relax with. So do a little bit less deliberating, a little bit less risk analysis when you jump into things. And yeah, and in a way, in our society, that's a courageous thing to do, I guess.
It is.
Or crazy.
Well, so what I think is amazing is, like, what do we do about the judgment that you get from family, the conditioning you have around, well, you've spent all this time investing in your career, you're throwing away money, you work so hard, that could be done on the side. That's that small point, that inflection point where you got to make a decision to jump, even though it doesn't make sense. What do you do about the external voices and the internal voices?
Yeah, that's hard. I actually jumped when I had a lot of knives in my back. So it was an appropriate time to leave. But I thought I'd be going back. I thought I'd be jumping back on the bandwagon. And I think the reason I wanted to jump back on the bandwagon was because that was my perceived expectation, to be the good girl, to go back in, keep trying to fit that square peg into the round hole, because that's what society dictates. If you've been in the corporate world, you've done this, I had a master's in marketing, I was heading down that path, and had my 6-figure salary. Well, it was barely just pushing it, but could have done better, but doesn't matter. But when you get to that level, because we define ourselves, or at least the society values where you've arrived in the workforce and what kind of a financial value you have. So you expect that of yourself, and other people possibly judge you on that because that's their values. So yeah, you need to get in touch and understand, what are your values? What is valuable to you? Do you need to keep earning more money? Do you need to drive whatever kind of car or whatever? Once you hit a bit of a rough patch and go down to a low point, sometimes you have to go to a low point. I'm speaking from experience, to realize that that stuff actually doesn't really matter. It doesn't make you happy. I mean, they've found too, reaching a certain point of wealth, which is not a hugely wealthy point, will make you happy, because you can, reach your base and sacral chakra things. You can have a house, a roof over your head, you can buy food. But beyond that, really, you've got to question if you need it, if that brings you true fulfillment.
Absolutely.
So it's a matter of tuning into your core values, because the thing is, and this is what I realized too, I was worried about judgment, and I know that there are some definitely family members of mine, not located in Australia, because my immediate family is incredibly supportive, but there are absolutely family members of mine who absolutely snub and turn up their noses at what I've done with my life. Absolutely. Yeah. But then what you've got to realize is that you've got to have sympathy, and not, if I would go, oh, look at that, that's judging, they've got that set of values, I've got this set of values. That's what makes this world so cool, because everyone's got different values. If we're all meditation teachers and sound healers, no one would have work. And we wouldn't have that contrast either.
And meditation for me during these more challenging times, when you step into your work, and even stepping out publicly to speak about, things as a teacher or a healer, or have some mastery over these esoteric practices, can feel quite challenging. And I find meditation is a little bit of a conversation with a high consciousness, God consciousness, universal energy. That really has been one of the things that's brought me back home. There is a feeling of coming home with your meditation practice. It's a little bit more intermediate to advanced, where you're connecting with source, light. That is where home sits.
It absolutely is, and that connectedness. And you know what you realize then too, which is interesting, that you're not that. The world doesn't actually revolve around you. Your world revolves around you, but the world doesn't revolve around you. So actually, you know what, really, and this is a horrible thing to say, but it doesn't matter what you do. Have you ever had it, like, I know this from the corporate world, where I'd go on leave for a couple of weeks, and I leave these pages of instructions and give people access to my emails, and this has to be done urgently, and this I come back, nothing had been touched. But you know what, it didn't matter. You realize, what, actually, you know what, it doesn't matter. I don't matter. Not to say it in a negative, I don't matter though. In the context of this world, the 7 billion people on this planet and everything that's going on, it actually doesn't matter what I do.
It doesn't matter. No, and I think COVID, finish on that note, I think COVID's teaching us what can matter with a simpler way of living.
Yeah.
And we needed it all to be stripped away to come back to a primal way to live, an organic way to live, a simple life. And from that, new structures will be built. And then just to circle back, possibly a deeper, insightful, a more disciplined meditation practice may actually support us on the other side of this as well.
Yeah, and on the other side of this, like transition. And that would be a whole other topic.
That's another whole topic, yes.
Your transition, which also, and meditation can absolutely help with that as well.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Natalie, you've been extraordinary. I love hearing all your interesting insights. And today was really just an intention around speaking about the many different sort of the challenges with meditation. And we wanted to speak a little bit esoteric as well, about channeling and about connecting to the other side. So it was a bit of a light touch topic. It's hard to cover many concepts in 35 minutes, but we wanted to do a bit of a lunchtime chat. You're awesome. We might get you on a bit more to chat about the palliative care and the sound healing. We'll do that next time. How does that sound?
That sounds wonderful.
Wonderful, Natalie. Well, signing off from Sheila and Natalie. Thank you for tuning in. And sending you love.
Bye.